Would you like to have the education, the tools, and the support to create your plan to rock retirement? If so, come join me Tuesday, November 16th at 7 p.m. Central, where I'm going to host a Rock Retirement Club open house. And we're going to show you the clubhouse and the master class, as well as answer your questions. You can learn more and register at livewithroger.com. Welcome to the Retirement Answer Man Show, the show dedicated to helping you have the confidence to not just survive retirement, but to rock retirement. My name is Roger Whitney. I am your host. I'm excited that you're here. This is a question and answers episode, and this week we are bringing on the rock star, Nicole Mills. How are you, Nicole?
I am so excited to be here for our QA episode. October changes.
October changes. Did you get the bottle of Geritol that I sent you?
What is that? No.
Geritol? You've never heard of Geritol? So
no,
Nicole
I don't know what that is.
She just had a birthday a few weeks back. She is 29. Is that how we do it now? It's always 29?
I mean, I liked being 29. That was a good age, but I'm going to go with real 38 because I've been thinking I was 38. So I'm happy to finally be there.
Yeah. So happy birthday. Geritol there were these old commercials. It's some kind of supplement for old people that were commercials, obviously before your time. So you can Google a YouTube commercial, no doubt.
Okay. I will do that as soon as we're finished here.
So how are you handling the changes between 2 episodes a week, one of them being video, this one not being video, which you asked about? How are you handling that? What do you think so far?
I still like the idea of it, but I'm a little bit like, ooh, are we thinking about all the details? And so it'll be good, but it might be a little clunky this first month.
Yeah,
I guess people will have to let us know what they think.
Yeah, change is good. Change is good. I mean, we just had our 400th episode. Woo! Celebrate. We had sparkles on the video episode. If you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Retirement Answer Man. 400. Now 500, we're going to get to quicker if we keep doing 2 episodes a week.
That's true. We'll have to do something really big for 500.
Now we did a t-shirt for 300.
And we did that whole episode with Spartan voices. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yes, because it was 300. And the t-shirt it's one of my favorite t-shirts that we have. You can't retire from being awesome. And so we'll definitely do a t-shirt for episode 500, which we'll get to sooner than we think.
All right. Maybe we should crowdsource the saying for our 500 episode t-shirt.
Yeah, we'll put that on the to-do list. I have people that can help me remember that.
Yeah, cool.
But today we're going to focus on your listener questions. This is the nice part. It's because this is just a Q&A episode. We can spend maybe a little bit more time helping you and also hopefully helping others. If you have a question that you would like to be answered on the show, go to rogerwhitney.com/Ask Roger, and we'll try to answer it on the show for you. So let's get started, Nicole.
Get going? Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. Our first question is from Catherine. And she wrote in, I started listening 2 years ago-ish, and I love the show. There were 2 points that really resonated with me and helped me get over my shame and frustration regarding our lack of retirement savings. I'm so glad we were able to help someone. That's pretty awesome. Life happens, and it's okay to have a flexible retirement where you work part-time. Put your oxygen mask on first. Maybe Tanya said that. That sounds like something she'd say. This has made me realize a lot of my financial issues were bailing out the kids. Thankfully, they're both doing great and they're financially secure, but I'm still paying for those early years where I put stuff on my credit cards. Then she goes in to talk a little bit more about her specific financial situation. And she says, I have a 401k that I'm maxing out the contribution. My husband started a simple IRA that he's maxing out through his company, and we have Fidelity investment accounts, but I think our income is over the Roth income limit. What else can we do to save pre-tax, or are we just, she says screwed. Can I say that on the podcast? I don't know.
You just did.
I guess I just did. I thank you. And I love the segment on women rocking retirement.
Great. So congratulations on getting over a lot of that regret. That's a big deal. That's a bigger deal. And we've talked about that before, haven't we, Nicole? And you'll get this, Nicole, as you get older. As you get older and look at all the things you wish you would have done, it's easy to live there. I know for me, I had to get over a lot of things. And actually, this sounds weird, had to go through a grieving process to forgive myself for the version of myself I was in my 20s and 30s. And obviously, I wouldn't go back because it helped me evolve to where I'm at today. But there's a lot of things about Roger 20-something and Roger 30-something that I am really not that proud of. It really is. And I've reconciled that. But I think we get that as we get older. You're totally going to get this, Nicole. But trust me, it gets better. So let's talk about where you can save, which is essentially the question, right? Where else can you save? The simple IRA that your husband has doesn't have near as much room for saving as a 401k plan. And you say that he has partners in his business. He could lobby his business to switch to a 401k plan and coupled with a profit sharing. And even though you're older, it will help you supercharge a lot more of your savings. It'll go, the amount that you can save in a 401k is $10,000 to $15,000 more than a simple. If you couple a profit sharing with it, you can really supercharge your tax deferred savings. And it will set the company up for the current partners to be able to save for their retirement if they're younger than yours. But this is going to have to be a group decision because there are obligations that come with a 401k plan. So I'll use myself as an example, Catherine. Just this year, we switched from a simple plan to a 401k plan in our business. And what that means is we now have a Roth option. So I'm above the income limits too, but I can save all of my employee deferrals in a Roth. Now, Nicole and Tracy and Kim and others can save more for their retirement. And then I'm agreeing to match them. I think it's dollar for dollar up to 4% of their income. So I'm giving them money, but they're earning it, every dollar of it. And then we have a profit sharing. And then we have a profit sharing contribution, discretionary, that we may do at the end of the year. So be nice to me, Nicole. But that's one way that perhaps he might be able to help the firm in their benefits package, but also help him. Another one we don't think about as much is a health savings account. Do you have a health savings account, Nicole?
I do. We do.
Do you contribute to it, the max?
I don't know if we contribute the max. We do contribute to it, and enough we get some money from my husband's employer also.
And then do you tap it and use it?
No.
For like medical expenses?
I don't. Not right now.
Okay. And so is it sitting as cash? Or
it is invested. We have ours invested.
So, okay. So it's trying to grow. So good. You got some good check boxes.
I am paying attention to some things at work.
And so, Catherine, this might be an option. If you don't have a high deductible insurance policy, you could consider switching to a high deductible insurance policy. And again, that is exactly what I did last year. I've been through a lot of changes structurally that didn't allow me to do it earlier. But in addition to the 401k, Catherine, because I'm sort of in the same situation as you from a tax perspective, I switched to a high deductible insurance policy so I could have a health savings account. If you do that, then the two of you combined could save roughly $7,000 pre-tax, or actually tax-free, in a health savings account. You get that as a deduction on the front end. And then if you do what I did and what Nicole did, you can invest that fairly aggressively and not use it to pay healthcare expenses. So it can be essentially a supercharged Roth IRA type of vehicle. And we've talked about that in the past. So I would consider that because that would allow you to have a $7,000 tax deduction. It's $7,000, isn't it? I don't have my paper right here in front of me. But a tax deduction might be $6,500. I forget. And also allow you to invest it, not just let it sit as cash. So the idea would be that you would contribute to the health savings account, but not use it to reimburse yourself for expenses. You would actually use it to invest for your future self.
It's actually $7,200.
$7,200. Okay.
And there's $1,000 55 plus catch up.
Okay. If you're over 55 or over 50, excuse me. No, actually it's 55 for the health savings account, if I recall. Now that leads us this catch-up provision. And this may sound simple, and I'm guessing you're okay here, Catherine, but many people aren't, is that if you're over age 50, you're allowed to contribute what's called extra money or a catch-up provision to your simple IRA, to your individual IRAs, to a 401k account. Now, I'm guessing that you're probably doing that, but I had a conversation a few months back where someone was 58-ish and they said, I just realized I can contribute more to my 401k because I'm over 50, and they were 58. They had never known. So they had 7 years of missing out on extra contributions and extra tax deductions, et cetera. So I just want to make sure I mention that. And then saving in a taxable brokerage is not a bad way to save as well, even from an investment standpoint, because honestly, Catherine, a lot of people, as they get close to retirement, are poorly allocated between tax buckets. They have so much in their tax deferred bucket, your 401k and IRAs, and that's where all the money is. And they have Roth investments, but they don't really have a lot of after tax investments, money in the bank, investment assets. That's really a good place to do it as well. So hopefully that gives you some suggestions on where you can save.
All right. Our next question is short and sweet. It's from Tom. Are there any plans for an audiobook of Rock Retirement?
This is part of the previous self that I'm not proud of, Nicole and Tom. We had a meetup in the Rock Retirement Club in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago. And there was a gentleman there, the name escapes me right at present. And he was there with his wife and we were talking and he asked this very question because he's visually impaired and wanted to know if we're going to do an audio book of the book. And I said, yes. And I actually already have the editor. I already have the project all set up. All I have to do is read the book and record the audio. And you would think recording audio would be pretty simple for me, wouldn't you?
Because I would. I do think that.
And I haven't done it. So I'm committing to do it because it's all paid for and ready. So yes, there will be an audio book that will be available. I'm not going to promise a date.
Too on my list of things.
It's all set up. In fact, I'm about to do, I'm recording this right at the end of September. I'm doing my fourth quarter planning. So I'm deciding whether I'm going to put a deadline on this thing relative to other priorities. And most likely it'll be on Audible and things like that. If you're a member of the Rock Retirement Club, we're just going to give you the audiobook for free. But yes, Tom, it is coming as soon as I get my butt in gear, which will be sooner than later.
Our next question is from Mary, and she writes in, "Hi, Roger. I am a 77-year-old single woman. I currently receive $3,000 in Social Security each month and an additional $1,200 in retirement accounts from an annuity. I'm healthy and currently thinking of selling my home. My question is, if I sold my house and net $300,000, how should I ensure I can receive a steady $1,000 to $2,000 a month for the rest of my time here? I'm thinking of moving into an independent living facility, which would be around $3,800 a month. My son is great and helps with my finances, and we hear bad things about annuities, but would an immediate annuity be good here? Or would something else be worth looking at?"
It's a really good question, Mary. So let's unpack this a little bit. First off, you're looking at selling your home. So realize part of your home sale may be subject to taxes. So you're going to have to check what your cost basis is on your home and be prepared to pay some long-term capital gains, potentially on any gains. Currently, I think it's over $250,000 for a single person. So there might be a little tax consequence there. So let's assume there isn't for now. So you have this $300,000 and you're wanting to have $1,000 to $2,000 of income for yourself. So if we run, I just used a Schwab calculator on an immediate annuity and said, what if we took $300,000 and put it into a single premium immediate annuity, a SPIA for your situation? And that would yield, according to the calculator, around $2,000 a month for the rest of your month. So it sounds like it would hit the number that you're thinking of. So that is definitely a viable solution. So if you did this, what would happen is you would give up your $300,000, which was in your house, and you would get this $2,000 a month for the rest of your month, not inflation adjusted. And between your $2,000 a month payment from the SPIA and your Social Security, you're going to have a really good steady stream of income, which sounds like it would pretty much cover the amount of this independent living facility. So that doesn't sound like a bad deal. So let's look at some pros and cons of this approach. The pros that I can think of are, one, it's an easy button, right? If you do this, you don't have to manage anything. You don't have to have your son manage anything. You don't have to worry about investments or markets or getting scammed out of money, etc. It's really easy. And it's guaranteed income that will always be there as long as you're living. And if you die in 3 years, then you've gotten the income. Well, that's actually sort of a con, so we'll go there. But it's guaranteed income, and it really simplifies your life. And that might be a really attractive thing at age 70. So you don't have to be, you can take this burden off your son and feel secure in your income. Now, what are some of the considerations or negatives to this? Well, one is you're going to give up this $300,000 of money. So you're not going to have the use of that. Although it's coming from a home sale, you still would have had use of it potentially in a reverse mortgage, which might be something you could consider as an alternative. You'd want to compare that. I didn't run some numbers on that. But one thing, Mary, if you have a paid for house, you could run numbers that would give you a life estate in your home and then pay you a payment every month. But that might be negated because you're wanting to go to an independent living community. But you still could have accessed that money from a HELOC, et cetera. So you're going to give up the use of this money. And if you do die, say 3 years down the road, nobody's going to have any benefit. That $300,000 is gone, even though you passed away after the first 2 or 3 years. So that's a potential negative. Another one would be there's no inflation hedge, right? Because a single premium annuity is going to pay you $2,000 a month today, but when you're 70 or 88 or 90, that $2,000 isn't going to have as much bang for its buck because inflation or the cost of goods is going to increase over time. So you'll want to factor that in there. And then lastly, that's not a deal killer, but you're going to want to maybe factor that in there because you'll have to cover the increase in costs from some other place. And then lastly, I think the question would be, if you give up this $300,000 and you don't have access to it because you bought a SPIA, I want to make sure that you have some liquidity, some money left in the bank as a contingency fund. Because what happens if you have a major medical issue or if you have some big expense that you didn't anticipate? How are you going to fill the gap? If you use all your money to buy, say, an immediate annuity, you have these great payments between Social Security, the annuity you already have, and this new thing. But if you need 20 grand tomorrow, you're going to have to figure out how to get 20 grand tomorrow. So you might want to make sure you have some liquidity there as well.
On the annuity, if you have to access the money and essentially like blow up the rider with the income, is it basically acting like just a regular account at that point?
So with a SPIA, a single premium immediate annuity, it's annuitization. So if I give you,
so
if you give
lose
me your
the money if
it's irrevocable. Yeah. It's
okay.
done. So that's that's a higher stakes decision because you lose optionality.
Right.
All of this negative stuff said, I'm just trying to think through considerations. I don't think it sounds like a bad plan as long as you can keep some liquidity
somewhere
for life happening. Yeah, somewhere. Maybe she has that she didn't share.
All right. Our next question is from Sue. I just discovered your podcast and I love it. I have a question on how to best self-fund for long-term care. I'm 55 and my husband is 59 and was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease 4 years ago. It's a very slow-moving disease. We currently have about close to $2 million in assets and no real debt. We own our home and will plan for one-level living in the near future that may have some costs. I'm the primary earner, earning $200,000 a year and plan to retire at 67. Since Parkinson's was diagnosed early, we assume he would not qualify for a long-term care policy. I plan to save as much as I can for the possibility of future in-home care. Is that the best approach, or are there other insurance vehicles out there that I'm not thinking of? I'm nervous about the real cost of retirement. Thank you.
Hey, Sue. I totally get you're nervous. I'm nervous too all the time. But if you have a plan and you think through it, life works out. So let's think through this. So you're right. Since his diagnosis is on the books, long-term care is probably not a viable option for him. So any kind of long-term care that he is going to need is going to have to be self-funded. So we have to think through that. Now, related to that, it may make the importance of having some type of paid up long-term care insurance for you important, because you may go through a lot of assets supporting his diagnosis and healthcare. You're going to want to make sure that you have something for yourself, because he isn't going to be able to be most likely be the provider for you, whether it's doing the work himself, et cetera, in terms of being a caregiver. And you could use traditional long-term care policies where you pay a premium every single year. You might want to consider in this case, doing some paid up premiums or paid up policies, which is going to be more the insurance-based long-term care, I think that's worth considering. Now, I don't know how your healthcare expenses are now, but one thing you could do is similar to, I think it was Catherine, make sure you're on a high deductible healthcare plan so you can start saving in health savings accounts for eventual healthcare costs, not using it for today. So using whatever time you can to contribute to a health savings account, use your income to pay for healthcare expenses, and then trying to get that to grow over 10, 20 years to be a source for long-term care expenses. I think savings in general is needed. You can max out your retirement plans. You can do backdoor Roths potentially. Make sure you're catching all the catch-up provisions. One other thing to think about is you may be able to use a reverse mortgage. This is very similar to Catherine in terms of the optionality, because if you have a paid-for house, let's think it through it this way. So if you have a paid-for house, and let's assume that grows over time, in the event you start to have these extraordinary expenses due to your husband's diagnosis, you could also consider accessing equity from the value of your house. Now, you can do that via a home equity line of credit very easily, actually. Now, it's very simple and it's quick. The advantage of it is it's simple and quick, and you can pay it back and then it goes away. The disadvantage is that you're going to have regular payments that you have to make on this line of credit that you tapped, but you also can have in your quiver, right? That's the thing that holds the arrows.
It holds arrows, yes.
Yes, in your quiver, a reverse mortgage of some type. And we're going to do a series on reverse mortgages because I don't think we've done that before, and actually a series on accessing equity from your home.
Do I need to write that down too?
Can, but I have it in a hopper.
Oh, good. Okay.
I have a hopper. I have a quiver. Because you can't see Nicole laughing. She is. Because you can use a reverse mortgage to access equity from your house and allow you to have a life estate in that house. So you can have residency in that house forever. So that might be an option. And the other part is, this is more the qualitative stuff. You got to start to take care of yourself. And, self-rescue is always the first thing. And it's easy to make it the last thing when you're dealing with a partner or a loved one that has needs and needs you. It's easy to make yourself the last on the list. And really, you need to make yourself first so you can be healthy enough and to be able to provide for everybody else. Because if you go down, then everybody goes down from a coordination standpoint, et cetera. It's a little bit different than how we usually think about it. So make sure you take care of yourself. Another thing that you can do is start to make a file, and this can be a long-term project of connecting with care providers, outsourced nursing, the kinds of things that you're going to need potentially to use in the future. It's better to have some understanding of the options and have at least some high-level relationship with a few of them, so you have some quote-unquote safe people that you can turn to when you need to. I have this happen all the time, Nicole. I've had so many discussions where everybody's DIY. I can think of one instance where the wife manages everything. And we've had conversations, and they're not clients, but we've had conversations. And sometimes this is why people join the club, I think. And as a couple, their couple and me. So when the manager passes away or can't do it, that there's somebody safe to turn to. And I'm not suggesting me in that case, but I'm saying it's good to have some relationships so you don't have to go searching when you're in need.
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
It does. And even to find some people. So I lost my grandmother to Parkinson's, actually. And one of the things that we did that really helped my grandfather was found some really just kind ladies that would come in and sit with my grandmother to let him go out and do other things for just a few hours. And that was to let him stay active. They were older, though. So I'm sorry for the diagnosis of your husband. I know from experiencing it with my grandmother that it's tough. So I'm thinking about you guys for sure.
So if you have questions that you'd like for us to answer on the show, go to rogerwhitney.com/Ask Roger. So since we have a little bit of time.
Yeah. How do we wrap these up now? I'm so used to the old format with the smart sprint.
With the smart sprint and everything. So we've been doing the smart sprint in the main segments.
Okay.
So maybe that's the smart sprint. Share your experiences and ask questions.
Maybe you should bring back the Happy Lab.
The Happy Lab. Yeah. Well, I was going to end with just something which isn't so happy necessarily. And I hate to
Oh, well, no, don't end on a not happy note.
Well, it's not a bad note, but I was talking to a friend of a former business partner, and he told me, did you know so-and-so had COVID? One of my former business partners. And yeah, they were in the hospital.
Do I know this person?
We're not going to go there.
Tell me offline.
We're going to be confidential, but evidently they got COVID. They went into the hospital and they were like near death. And they were just released from the hospital and in their home. And it's going to be a long road, but the recovery should go well, assuming, no sidetracks. It sort of hit me, right? Because I don't know anybody. My son tells me about COVID stuff from working at the hospital. And I feel, it hasn't really impacted me in any personal way other than the very minor inconveniences that we've all had. And I don't know, just sort of like, wow. And it was a big deal. Just sort of brought it to light. The good news in all of that, Nicole, is they were released, they're recovering, and they're on this whole different journey that they probably never imagined they would be on. So my best wishes to this person, to anybody that has had to deal with any kind of illness or life smacking you in the face in one way or another. It's going to happen. And it's all how we navigate it. So just wanted to share that. I feel a little survivor's guilt, to be honest with you, because I feel like my life hasn't been disrupted or impacted as it has with some people.
I don't relate to that experience. So I don't really know what to say.
You had a baby in the middle. You had the baby.
Yeah. I mean, I was like terrified I was going to do something wrong and get this mystery disease and give it to my unborn baby. So yeah, it was very different.
Yeah. So I'm sure there's very smart people, and we don't hear about this. There's got to be long-term trauma about the stress, whether you've been impacted directly or not, of just all this stuff. So it just sort of brought it to light and reminded me to be thankful.
Don't take things for granted. That's for sure.
Always. And that's, not doing that and figuring out what to do next is a great way to rock retirement. Maybe that's a good way to end. Hey, it's time for that all-important disclaimer. We so appreciate you listening to the show and love your questions and love the teaching that we're able to provide here. And actually, it helps us too. But remember, you're not our clients.
Not love it if you took advice from us on the show.
We would not love it if you took advice from us on the show. Realize this is helpful in education. Talk to your legal advisor, your tax advisor, or your financial advisor before you make any decisions.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.